Okay, so we got another great episode with Luke Nelmes, who might be one of the greatest young minds in digital marketing and content strategy that I've seen in quite some time. He's a CMO at Big, which is a digital marketing agency based out of the UK. I'm telling you, the insights this kid has are amazing. I guarantee you, you're going to be educated on some very interesting things. Podcast starts off right off the bat. We're just going to get right into it. Luke Nelmes, CMO at Big, Blissful Ignorance. Let's go.
So we're a small team, and we're trying to be a bit of rebel causers. We're trying to find out what the cutting edge is on ABM, and LinkedIn ads has been quite a fun space for us. So yeah, I mean, look, this is some kind of fun optimization algorithms. So a bit of context: we signed a client who are spending roughly around 150K a month on messaging ads.
Mm-hmm.
And they came to us and they were like, we want to add creative testing within our flow, and we want to, be as efficient as possible. And we were like, yeah, we'll give it a go. So Aaron, the CTO, he is one cracked individual.
Yeah.
He just, I don't know, he wakes up and he's just like wants to take over the world, and AV marketing is his new target, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, look. So kind of what we're finding is what we're trying to do is right. We looked at Facebook, right, and looking at kind of their ad manager and how they do optimization and their new algorithm. I think it's Andromedon. And what we're trying to do is, I think for LinkedIn ads, they're not as mature as Facebook is, or Meta, sorry. So a lot of what we're doing right now is we're taking the learnings, kind of how Facebook are doing it, and we're approaching it to LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And kind of, so if you can see this graph here, right, you can see what LinkedIn's A/B test optimizer is doing, right? And you
Yeah.
can kind of see that with what we're trying to do is we're essentially becoming more efficient for budget. So it actually, instead of, it turns off ad spend when it makes sense. Because even though it's such a simple thing to make, or not to make, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just something that LinkedIn clearly aren't doing. We're just like, well, it seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's very exciting. Look, I mean, what's your views? I mean, where's your head at seeing
No,
this?
I think that's great. I think that's what everybody's looking for right now, considering how much outreach has changed.
Man, honestly.
But this is up. So let's start from the beginning, just so
Yeah.
everybody's sort of aware, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
like Luke Nelms, give me okay. Obviously, you're the CEO at Big. Tell me more about how you got in this seat in the first place, right? So
Yeah, of course.
I hate the whole elevator pitch thing, but yeah, give me a backdrop about how you got into that position, and basically
Yeah, yeah.
even maybe a bit more about yourself and how you got there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, of course. So I've been driven by entrepreneurship since I was born. It's funny. We're a farming family. We're farmers, and so to kind of go into the marketing world, it seems a hell of a jump.
Where's your family from? Where's your family from?
So we're from so Cambridge University, around
Yeah.
Cambridge, the city.
Yeah.
So we
Yep.
live 20 minutes outside Cambridge, and we farm in Essex.
Okay.
It's good. It's good. I jokingly say my dad's one of the, probably not only, but he's a commuting farmer. So we
Yeah.
don't actually live on the farm,
Yeah.
which in my world it's like, wait, what? You don't live on the farm? It's like my parents made, and yeah, so it's been great. I think it was great when, if you work and live, I mean,
Yeah.
imagine working in your office
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
sleeping there and eating there, and you never leave like your brain's always there. So the fact
Yeah.
my dad had that commute was like gold dust. So all the anger and frustrations of running a farm, and may I say there are plenty,
Yeah. Yeah.
he was allowed to kind of have that 1 hour drive to kind of calm down and relax. But yeah. So farming family, went to university, started playing around with kind of digital products, started playing in kind of different spaces. We looked at kind of like the nightclub industry, looking at what we could do there for innovation, met some really awesome people. And then I was at this kind of like incubator. I was planning to go on this incubator program, and I was really excited for it. And I got a message from my bosses now, Zara and Aaron, and they said, look, we met you at this event, and we would love you to do a summer internship. And I was like, yes, of course, that sounds incredible. And so I was working for 2 months, and they were like, you're not going on this program. We're going to poach you. We want you. We want you. I think you're good at what you do. And yeah, and now I'm leading growth and marketing and just pushing kind of what we're doing. Jokingly, when I first got the job, my job description was hype man.
Yeah.
It was like a nightclub promoter. It was promoting what we're doing. I think I've had to go to a more professional title of CMO.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
look, at startups they give out titles like candy, right? I mean, I'm still a 22-year-old young little CMO, but
That's
learning
amazing.
so much.
So how long you been there for?
2.5, 3 months, which is
Damn,
cool.
that's crazy, man. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's really great progression. What would you? Okay, so obviously, I feel like there's a lot of people that are either around your age or possibly younger that are interested in like being on a similar career path. Like, what would you tell them?
Look, it's action creates information, right? If you want to do something, you just got to change the path that you're on. So it's
Yeah.
like if you sit there and connect with as many people you can on LinkedIn and just send them a nice message and be like, "Hey, look, I'm new to the industry. Would you give me some advice or whatever?" Just start the ball rolling, right? Like find what you're really passionate about and make content. I'm really lucky that what I'm extremely passionate about is funnels and breaking down content in organic, right? People they love it, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like it's very easy for me because there's quite an easy link there to a job possibly. But if you're doing, let's say you're passionate about making jeans,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Maybe do like a little, content series on LinkedIn about how the marketing of jeans or how jeans are made. Just find what you're passionate about and make interesting content about it, and people will pick you up, right?
Yeah.
If that makes sense, because you know what I'm trying to say. Like, just do what you're passionate about. And if you struggle to find out what you are passionate about, because I know some people struggle to find what they truly love doing,
Yeah.
don't don't ask the question. Don't be like, oh, what makes you passionate? Say what energizes you, right? Because
Mm.
passion changes, but energizing doesn't. I'm energized by the endless curiosity of how do people go through a funnel. I know it's probably the weirdest, like, energizing thing ever, but I just find it so awesome the psychology of why someone chooses to buy and not buy, right? Yeah.
That's awesome. And do you find like the other interesting part is like because here's the thing I've definitely realized that the nature of sales has changed, right? So when I first got into sales, everything was very rudimentary, and I think I've told this story before, so apology if this is sort of being redundant, right? But like when I first got into sales, you would want to sell product B to company A. So you'd call company A and find whoever you literally call the secretary and be like, "Hey, I sell this. Who would be responsible for this at the company?" Maybe give you a name, and then you'd be like hassling them down, trying to find more contact information, get an email, and maybe luckily get like a meeting set up and have a discussion. Right? Things have definitely changed now, and I've realized now that you're like what I would say your digital identity is very important, and I find that now that's why marketing and content has become way more important. And the interesting thing, and this is what I want to get your input on, right? It's interesting. So like you're 22, right? Okay, being like okay, so it's almost okay. So you've grown up with technology. You know what I mean? Like your whole life, you've grown up to technology. So like the way I look at it is, you're basically like you're at the tip of the spear of the
Yeah.
new cohort of the population. And the
Yeah.
reason why I bring that up, it's like the nature of communication has changed. So you've always grown up with a phone in your hand. You probably got really good. You probably really got good at content on Instagram and things of that platform. Like, do you find like that's allowed you to sort of like translate your interest really easily into what you're doing right now and like commercialize these things that maybe people didn't have like value for early on?
I mean, look, it's interesting, isn't it? If you look at where the game has gone,
Yeah.
if we now think, look, creators and influencers are clearly what the new distribution channels are,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think there's a really great way to look at life is through like a demand and supply kind of perspective. And I say, well, okay, in the world where content can anyone can make content, everyone's got a phone, everyone can take their phone and start filming,
Yeah.
right? The barrier to entry has never been this low,
Yeah.
right? So then what becomes scarce? Well, trust. Because there's so much noise, actually having the signals of trust has become the new currency.
Yeah.
And I think we have definitely agree with you there completely. I think we've definitely, from a content point of view, I think what I've seen is growing up in the kind of the spray and pray content approach of just putting as much out there. That was working a lot a couple of years ago, but I think now there's got to be more focused, like meet the buyers where they already pay attention.
Exactly.
I think a lot of people make a mistake, in my opinion, where they'll say to a growth marketer or they'll say to they'll be ask a CMO, this is what I'm learning. Again, I'm 22, so
Yeah.
I've still got a lot to learn. But what I'm definitely understanding is, if someone says, "Oh, how would you grow this company?" My first question is, I don't know what I don't know. So actually, let's have a look at all the channels you are looking at, and let's make some data decisions, right? Like so like LinkedIn is a really fun space for this because you can get really granular. You can start being like, okay, this demographic is really resonating with me right now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then you can then take the learnings from LinkedIn. I think not no no I don't think many people do this. They don't take the learnings they're getting from LinkedIn ads and LinkedIn content
Yeah.
organically, and
Yeah.
then if it resonates on LinkedIn, guess what? It will work quite well on Instagram video. It may work well on the blog. So the game has become find the piece of content that resonates as most with your core ICPs.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
and then just make multiple versions of it. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of how I look at it, right? It's how do you the shifts of going to market and demand gen have changed, and I think what being young in this space and kind of becoming, hopefully one day a very successful CMO is that the game is changing so quickly, and the days of making a 12, 15 week campaign, there is some level of importance to do that, but you've got
Yeah.
to realize that the game is so fast.
Yeah.
Culture moves at lightning speeds. Lightning.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think? What are you seeing on your end? I mean, you must,
Well,
from your point of view, it must be interesting. These youngsters are coming in saying you have to throw speed and scale at everything, and then where's your head at on that? I'm intrigued.
so the way I look at it, so my background's actually in political science, and I'm like a huge like econ nerd and political history nerd. So like on a very high level, this is how I look at things. What's happening from a population perspective is that we have the boomers who are aging out right now. So they're at the back end for sure of like their working capacity, and they're reach well they should, or the majority of them should be dead, but medical science has basically accelerated things that they're living much longer, which is actually has more further ramifications, which I'm going to speak on to next. But because the baby boomers are now living longer, they're working longer, they're in command of more capital, right? So technically speaking, like the economy is still designed to service them. However, the next largest working cohort is the millennials and Gen Zs combined. And just
Yeah.
the way that they operate from a technological perspective is so different than
Mm.
how the boomers operate, that there's a huge variance in sort of like working operations, right? So it's almost like the boomers are still responsible for the capital. They still have the legacy systems, right? But the way commerce is now advancing is on a more innovative front because of technology, and that's now being led by, specifically, I'll honestly say, Gen Z, not even millennials, right? So the interesting thing now is like, so basically what I find now is like marketing teams are trying to like adapt, sales and marketing teams are trying to adapt to this like new landscape, and they're having the hardest time doing so. And it's because they're so far separated from the front lines of this, which is why I think Gen Z is ahead of it, right? Because they're in front of you're already on your phones, you're already in like the right hashtags, you're already in the areas that you understand this game slightly better than the people who are actually responsible for moving the actual like nodules on it, right? And I find like right now, because like the biggest thing like from a marketing perspective is all these companies are trying to. So let me I'll even go back a further step, because what you're saying is very interesting, because you're basically saying meet the consumer where they're at, and then market them, like speak to them there, right? Where I find marketing before was like create a problem, inform the public this is a problem, and it may not even be real, but like create it, inform the public this is a problem, and then sell it to them, right? And then all these companies were having all these problems, like why are we not able to create an like a optimal sales workflow? But it's because you're not actually creating value, you're not actually finding value, you're creating value, which is the issue here, right?
Yeah.
And then so then it's like interesting because now you see like little things like this whole like Jet 2 like popping off like this
My goodness.
whole yeah.
But mate,
And
get
then it's
invested in
funny.
that stock instantly. They're gonna have such a great Q1. Oh my goodness! Like
And it's
wow.
funny because like that phenomena itself, now all of these senior marketing teams are like, yo, what the hell? They put, because if that is the greatest, like that's the greatest commercial win possible, because you put no effort in. You know what I mean? Like the ROI is nuts, right? So now all these teams are
Precisely.
trying to transfer, like, okay, from a content perspective, how do we create virality? But they don't know how to do it. You know what I mean? So that's like, what do you think about that?
Well, I think what's really interesting, you need to, when making content, I think the fundamental question you need to ask yourself is, how do we bake virality into what we're making?
Hmm.
How can we excite or create in the movement, right? Because if we again look at TikTok and Instagram, a good argument that a lot of B2B marketers will say, well, my customers aren't on TikTok or Instagram, right? And I like this little snippet of, but if they've got kids, their kids are, right? And if they see something that's funny and resonates with them, they may show their parents, right? It's a bit of a loose tangent, right? But people, again, I think it's buyer intent. When you're on LinkedIn, your brain's very much in business, insights, trending news. When you're on TikTok and Instagram, if you can make someone laugh and have the cultural resonance with them, and then when they're in the sales kind of mode, they'll be like, who's that content creator that's doing that really funny series about the problem space that I work in? Yeah, let's give him a message. See what he's got, because people like doing business from people they like,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I also think, I mean, the jet. I mean, the jet, as you're saying, the jet kind of EasyJet, thing that's going viral right now. I mean, I think it's slowing down now, but it's incredible how quickly a trend and a movement can start. I think brands also need to be careful where they don't jump on every trend, right?
Exactly.
Because there'll be a new trend. It's like being a surfer, right? Like catching a wave. You don't need to catch every single wave,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? It's just you've got to burn your team out, right? But if there's a wave that you look at that makes sense, and there's a piece of trending content that you think you could do really well, right? And this is where, to go back to your point, marketing teams, in my opinion, need to build systems to allow testing to happen quicker, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because teams lose time in the process, not the ideas. They're just too slow to test, right? Because imagine you and me, we see this really cool idea. We're like, look, this is a piece of content, or here's a strategy we should try. They go through all this due diligence, and then 5 weeks later, that's gone. The market, the culture of that market, your target market,
Yeah.
changed. And it's why look, all my friends who are in similar startups, who are kind of in similar positions to me, we all jokingly have a group chat about how many mobile phones we have,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I've got 2 at the moment, and the reason why is you can't make more than, I think it's 10, I think I may be wrong here, 10 to 12 TikTok accounts and 10 to 12 Instagram accounts on a single phone, because it kind of gets a bit weird about it. It may be less. So for me, I'm learning all these algorithms and trying to work out what's resonating, meeting the audience where they're at, right? Because on TikTok, let's say something goes viral there, and you start to see, okay, interestingly, what's that viral content creator? How do they approach LinkedIn? And you can start to map out, the strategies, and kind of think, okay, interesting. These are the hooks they're saying on TikTok. Let me try that as a LinkedIn blog post, and then you have these great synergies between content. Yeah. Does that answer your question? Hopefully.
100% it does. 100% it really does. So the next thing I sort of wanted to talk about, right? Because I think the greatest challenge I have right now, because you're right, execution is the biggest. Execution is always a big problem, and from a commercial perspective, from the point of strategy to execution, is always going to take a while. Especially the larger the company you are, it's always going to take longer. So just being able to be nimble and fast and experimental, but also be creative, I can see can definitely be beneficial, right? Now, the interesting thing, though, right, is that I find that's a risky strategy. A lot of companies aren't interested in risk, right? So a lot of they want to game marketing to figure out a way to actually benefit themselves. So virality is obviously important, and it's interesting. In our last conversation, we sort of encountered something of a company that might possibly be, just doing some slightly dubious things from a digital marketing perspective, in terms of sort of creating more visibility. And so I'm sort of going about it because in a certain way, because there was a really interesting story recently, right? So I follow this guy on LinkedIn, Jack Porter. So I want to see if we can share screen.
Let's have a look.
Let's see, is that the right one? Okay, share. Okay, we can see the screen, right? So it's LinkedIn just took down $12 million company, Ample Market, one of the hottest startups, a company that raised $12 million, 50 plus employees.
Interesting.
Yeah, gone from LinkedIn overnight. Rumors are it's a violation of terms of service for automating and connecting in LinkedIn data. So I guess this company was doing some sort of non-transparent practices on LinkedIn, and they just got absolutely terminated, right? So
Interesting.
yeah, so in our last conversation, we found another company that might be doing something like some spoofing and whatnot, right? So
Yeah.
up to you, really. I wanted to have a discussion about it because you found it, and the way you found it, honestly, I found it was amazing. We want to have a quick discussion and see if we could get them onto the actual podcast itself. But I'm wondering if LinkedIn is starting to crack down on these practices, do you think that's how do you think that's going to have effect on the market going forward, or effect on these companies going forward?
It's interesting, right? You've got, again, that it's interesting you showed me that company, Ample Market. It's something that I think there's a lesson to be had is do not have a single channel risk, right? If your company gets wiped out, let's say that was their main sales channel, right? It's gone over that business has not gone. They'll recover. They'll find a way. But that sales pipeline that was pretty, was leading good lead gen and getting good sales has now gone. So they now need to find a new way, right? So I think it is very important for companies to have kind of the first channel, right? Let's say for Amp Market was LinkedIn, but have 2 secondary channels just behind, where if this one gets knocked out, you've got these 2 to back you up, right?
Yeah.
And Interestingly, I went and did some research, and I think, and I'll kind of share my screen and show you a cursor. There, in a way,
Yeah.
all the laws of a funnel. There's one funnel they're doing right now in particular that breaks the concept of what people regard as a good funnel, right? Which I think is also clever. Interestingly to add, I was doing some research, so it was. I'll show my screen and I'll go into more detail about it. But it's interesting. Instead of saying they work for Cursor, they work for the parent company,
Yes.
which I thought was interesting. Now maybe it's just I'm becoming a bit of a, I don't know, what do you call them? A what's the word? Not a conspiracist, right? A bit of a conspiracist guy. But it's interesting to see why they wouldn't say they work for Cursor, they work for the parent company. But anyway, so here is the mighty funnel. Again, I've mapped out the things that I found really interesting. So Cursor right now are using more channels, but the two channels that I really want to focus on is LinkedIn and Google Ads, right? And I think Google Ads teaches us, so I'll start there, teaches some quite interesting things. So firstly, just I'll kind of explain what I think I've learned from this, is that if you're trying to analyze a company and you want to work out what's getting them sales, if you look at the Google Ads they're running, you're seeing the search intent. You can start to work out, okay, for example, are they using social proof? Okay, nice. So social proof is possibly a risk reversal, right? So the market clearly has been promised all these great and wonderful things. So you've got to think, okay, how do I build trust? I think trust is the big word of today's video,
It
right?
is.
How can you create trust as quickly as possible to your target market, and then for them, they will resonate and then they will buy from you, right?
Yes. And do it in a legitimate manner that's not going to get your channel toasted.
Precisely, precisely.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
It's just, I mean, again, look, it's just very interesting to look at, and you can also see kind of, you know, how they're doing soft conversion tactics and how they're kind of, saying try a demo today, and they're not telling you about the pricing here, right? They just want you into the funnel, and then they're hopeful they can nurture you, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But the LinkedIn thing now, this is probably one of the most fascinating things I've seen on LinkedIn so far, right? On the LinkedIn ads library.
Yeah.
These are currently free ads that Cursor are running,
Yes.
right? Again, we can see social proof, right? Up there in front, right? I think that's something I've learned. If you're a company and you're working with really cool clients, right, that your target market will know, put them front and center. Of course, get permission, but put them front and center, right? Like, to me, that's such an easy win you can do, that gives you so many, like, the outsized results are endless by doing it. But look, so here we go. This is where it's fun. So these free ads are running, kid you not, to this landing page. That's what they're sending traffic, right? Now, I'm not a landing page guru, right? And I'm not going to, sell you a course on landing page design. But it fascinates me that there's no, and we'll compare this to another funnel they're doing. Very different, right? This may be the most frictionless funnel I've ever seen. It is simple as email plus additional guests,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, like, what's your views on that? I mean, it's start the conversation today. It's not just give me your email, right? Like, what do you think? What are your first reactions to this?
I mean, I feel like there's different schools of thought. For sure, in terms of like the funnel, you're gonna get people in, because there's gonna be. My only question would be, like, for your more sophisticated buyer, like that, like not having a bit more color on that page, or just basically, it might raise some red flags. But I understand the simplicity of it, and I'll be interested in having a conversation with them to understand like how it's been converting and whatnot.
No, yeah, because it'd be interesting because they wouldn't look, and it's why I'd recommend if you want to understand. I mean, the people love to say, "Oh, how do you steal clients from your competitors?" I think the quickest way to discover that is look at where they're putting paid, right? Look at where they're putting paid ads, because they're putting their money where their mouth is, right? Because organic content, right? They can put tons of that out, right? But the fact they're putting paid behind it implies interesting things. So for them, if you're a smaller company and you haven't got the budget that a Cursor may have,
Yeah.
you can start to take out insights. It's like, okay, right? It's very clear that I need to maybe add a bit of UI on my product, right? At the bottom of my ad, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or maybe, this is a great one, right? The fact that it works with other kind of AI companies,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Kurt's research has probably found, and the insights they've learned from their audience and their organic, that's the number one question they're probably asked in their interview or in their demo meetings. Again, that is gold, actually. People do this already, but transcribing your meeting, see what the most common questions they ask you at the end, and then have that in your funnel at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Like this. You know what I mean? Like I think people operate too much in silos in kind of funnel
Yes.
design and ads. They don't think, you know, like I mean, this is interesting because this kind of goes against how I look at funnels. But there's the disconnect is crazy, right? Like for me, the fact that you go straight to an email, I mean, good. I mean, it'd be fascinating to have a conversation with them about why they look at it this way.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a disconnect, right? And if I'm cold traffic and I don't know what cursor is, I would be a bit like, what is this?
Exactly.
It's an
But
interesting bet.
I guess they've, as you said, they've probably positioned this marketing and messaging to resonate to their ICP at a certain point in the buyer journey. You know what I mean? So it's like if this doesn't make sense to you, it's probably because you're not in their ICP and you're not at that inflection point where you should be speaking with their sales team, right? So this is how you get hyper granular. And I guess that is the value proposition of having just the email page because it's going to be it's supposed to catch your eye. Hey, I have this problem. This is a solution. All I need to set up an email, set up the actual because the modern buyer is 60% down the buyer journey before they actually have an interaction with the sales team, right? So I find that incredibly interesting. Now, the other interesting thing that we're talking about on Cursor's marketing strategy, though, is how they're distributing those ads, right? Because I think we briefly mentioned
Oh
that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So just yeah. So essentially, they're running. You've got your static LinkedIn ads. They're running. They're
yeah,
running a bit of video, and they're running messaging ads. Just before I get onto messaging ads, I just want to kind of give the audience a bit of a contrast from this type of funnel to this funnel, right?
yeah,
Which some people would probably say is a more typical funnel that you'd be expecting. Again, stats and testimonies, right? Credibility sandwiches, I call them. They put them
yeah,
everywhere here,
yeah.
right? Look. So it's just interesting. I think something you definitely screenshot, or if you're listening on a kind of, Spotify, definitely, go to the video side of this and actually have a look. Because I think you get some really interesting insights about how they look at it.
Because this is very compelling. Now, if we go back to the top, like what those ads are, right? Because I'm pretty sure, yeah, these ads are probably a bit more elaborative. Well, I would think, right? Like in cursor is now is on your phone, on the web spinoff doesn't. Because the like in contrast, the ones where it's just like the email landing page, bare bones,
Yeah.
right? Like okay,
Yeah, yeah, it's an interesting bet. I mean, I'm guessing they've probably said as a team, let's for this kind of month on LinkedIn, let's look at two different funnels. One where, you know, people would this is where they would expect to go, and this is where people probably, and then one where it's completely passive interruption and it's completely just none of the fluff, none of that stuff. Just here isn't. Give me your email. Let's have a chat. Right?
yeah,
Maybe they've segmented this more kind of like these were targeted more towards urgency and people that need the problem fixed now or this solution.
agree.
And then maybe this is more, So,
If you don't mind, what's the verbiage on the first one, or with just the email landing page?
oh yeah, let's load in.
Sorry, no, no, the
Yeah,
other
yeah.
one, sorry, the first one, the
Oh, yeah.
first one.
This one
Yeah.
here.
Because I'm wondering if it's like even slightly so like on the ads themselves, like maybe it's a bit slightly technical. More hold on. Curious to see what your team could activate with da 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 da.
Top teams. I mean, again, you can. It's just very interesting because it has the call to action to start the conversation, and it's literally start a conversation. So it's you can't get more direct. I mean, interestingly, I would be fascinated to see a world where someone clicks on something like this, that this is not just a live chat automatically, actually a real person, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you're seeing a lot more on LinkedIn about a lot of people coming through ChatGPT now as a customer.
yeah,
Like that is the new channel, which is fascinating to me as a to the endless degree.
yeah. SEIO. Well, that even just to go on a random tangent, like it's actually really funny. Everybody right now should Google themselves again. I know nobody has done it in probably years, but just do it again and see what AI says about you. And this sort of translates to what I said back initially about your digital identity is becoming very important. What you put online is becoming very important because we're moving from a way, especially on the internet, of a world of nuance where people are actually going to websites, search things. We're going to have agents that essentially just do the majority of things for us, right? So really important for you to position yourself in a certain way in the digital world, right? I
Mm.
could even have the art. I could even say like the prevalence of this podcast is an illustration of that in itself. This is right. So just like having it out there,
Yeah.
people are reaching out to me now, which is obviously wonderful. But back to this, it's interesting because they basically tier their ad strategy to each part of their buyer journey. You know what I mean? It's almost like exactly. So it's like, hey, you've heard of Cursor, you understand like your problem and how you sort of fit into your solution, into your analysis, right? And like so, like here's that ad, go straight to the page, set up a meeting, right? and that's actually like very compelling from a strategic perspective.
Hmm.
How do you even get so like how do you even get to the point where like you're doing like ad detective work? You know what I mean? Like what like spurred this like idea for you?
I love it. I think it's. I mean, look, kind of what I find really interesting right now is the tension between organic and paid,
Yes.
and I think it's a really fun place to be in, right? Because there's some interesting contradictions happening where companies they'll come to you and say, "Oh, we don't know how to run." They're like, "What ads should we run?" And my first question is, "What organic is you running? Well, what are you running organically?" And they'll be like, "Oh, well, we're doing." Maybe some case studies, some like not like case study organics, and it's like they're treating their Instagram like it's 2016 and all
Yeah.
this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think we need to get to a point where we don't. What's the wording here? It's a fun one. This one. It's like page. The reason why I go into such a deep dive and get really with it
Yeah.
is because I want to understand. Right, this is the best way to find the signals, not the noise. Right?
Yeah.
Because companies like Cursor and their companies like Cursor are fantastic, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there'll be some hype that they'll play into, right?
Yeah.
But this is what moves the needle, right?
Yeah.
This is the things they'll be because they're not going to be putting money. People don't throw money. People don't flush money down the toilet, right, for the sake of it,
Yeah.
right?
That's what you
Unless
think.
there's some weird long-term play going on. Anyway, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
another for another day. But like for a fact that some of these ads, and again, when they turn them off quickly, is a great indicator that the ads weren't working. But the ones that have been on the platform for the longest, there's probably a good ROAS there. There's a good LTV to CAC occurring.
Yes.
So and that's why I always say to people like, go to Facebook ad library, go to Reddit ad library. That is a fascinating place, right?
Yeah.
Because again, you learn that ad on Facebook or that ad on Meta, we can't run the same thing on LinkedIn. It has to change because the audience is different,
Yeah.
right? But people are like, and this is where it gets slightly interesting. When I say to someone, here's one piece of content, make it 15 different times. Yes, do that, but also have some nuance and go, okay, so on TikTok, this type of hook works, right? So if I had that verbal hook that works, and on LinkedIn, maybe change it to what would work in the LinkedIn context. And that's kind of the same thing with ads, right? Like, look, this one here's a great example, right? 50K plus enterprise orgs use Cursor, right? Like, I guarantee they've tested and seen that orgs is something used within teams, right? Maybe they've found that insight on a meeting call with a potential client, right? Learn the voice of the customer and put those ads to them, and you will see great returns. I can guarantee.
I think what you just said there is the key, and that's the reason why I like you and what you're doing. Because I'll even say this: before this whole era, marketing was a nice to have; it was not a need to have. And essentially, it was like marketing was just a way for you to like brand, like just to brand. Like brand was more important than actually like resonating with your ICP. To be quite frank, I think the biggest difference between you and like a lot of other marketing teams that I've seen is that like they don't know what they're doing. There's zero alignment in the first place. You're actually looking at this from a sales perspective. How do I actually get this message? Like, how do I communicate? This is not even really marketing perspective, right? Like, how do I communicate with the right piece, the right people? I understand my product has value to a certain ICP. Where are they? What are they saying? How do I get to listen to me and set up a meeting with my company, right? And I think that's the biggest issue. That's the biggest like variance between a lot of company sales and marketing teams, right? Like it's literally like you're very right. They operate in silos. Even going back to what we were saying before about I think we're talking about like understanding like why your client actually utilizes your product. On the last podcast, Steven, he mentioned that like he asked one question to his existing clients, which is basically, why are you giving me money now? Right?
Ooh.
It's like
I like that.
Because it gets straight to the point, right? Because it's not even a matter of like, are we providing you value? It's like, why are you giving this company money? You know, like, because you could be giving another company money. You could be, and in that conversation, he was able to figure out the value was more so extrinsic for the client rather than intrinsic, right?
It's interesting.
But it's about being able to have that creative conversation and, to be quite honest, actually giving a fuck about your client, because that's the other issue with sales. Issue with sales is that it's very bottom line focused, right? So it's just like, let's get this sale across the board. Sometimes you're not even gonna get a good client in as long as it's a high paying client. You don't realize, I want a good client because that's what LTV is, right? I don't want churn. I'm trying to reduce those things. And I find like it's interesting because we're in a world right now, and I think because to be quite frank, I think the economy is contracting on a global scale, but that's actually causing like more optimal workflows, right? And there's some upside to this as well too. And I just think like people like yourself and these practices that we're seeing like derived from this format of sales and marketing, it's just completely changing the whole nature itself to actually, yeah, it's yeah.
For me, the two things are, and this is the thing, if you had to take two takeaways from what I talk about, is one, right, the days of, oh, what do you think about this idea? I, I think they're gone. I think it should be, here's an idea, how can we test it for $100 in 2 days and get some results back?
So
The speed to iteration, the speed to insight has to be quicker. You've got to just, and that's why I love. I mean, this is what I love being at Big, because that's what what we try and champion is, how can we speed up? And we're getting it right. We've still got a long way to go, but we're trying to think, okay, how can we take an idea to a live test as quickly as possible, right? And how can we make that workflow make sense? So how can we get to a point where, I mean, look, I mean, as we were talking kind of off before the podcast began, we were talking a lot about kind of, we're focusing a lot on kind of the optimization of a messaging ad, right? Yeah, like a message ad.
yeah.
And we're thinking to ourselves, okay, right, in this example, how could a company be like, okay, so these are the, I mean, this is Curse's examples, but how could it be actually, how can this be better? Well, okay, when they see that message ad and they click on book a call, when they go through that funnel, how can we make sure that everything is connected? So if they've seen that type of voice or they've heard that type of tone, that messaging has to go throughout, right? I don't know, like that's just, I just think people should just put something out there, see what happens, and iterate on it, and
Yeah.
then you'll get better, right? Action creates information.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like they it's almost like there's a need for more integration. Like the technology is there, even specifically between like sales and marketing, in order to share like what's working, right? But it's interesting because I almost feel like the nature, and I guess this is the biggest thing. I mean, I feel like the nature of sales itself is very siloed, and that's what sort of like creates these pinch points where we're not able to like translate information like correctly to marketing. And then it's also like they're not there's really, it's almost like you need to take a communist approach to doing sales and marketing.
Like, but I mean, look, I mean, we're a team of five now. We're a team of five at Biggs, and we've just hired, kind of a machine learning guy he's unbelievably cracked. I mean, I'm so excited to see what he can do. I mean, he's very cool, and it's just so interesting. And it's the conversation we kind of have as a team is, how do we allow insights to flow naturally, right? Because it's so true. Like a sale, like for example, I wonder how many companies take all their sales calls they're doing, get them transcribed, and then putting into a simple Chat GPT, like a GPT, right? And saying, what are the words our potential customers are using and what are they not using? How do they talk about efficiency? Do they use the word optimization, right? Like, again, you could argue that you're taking the human part out of it, but if your customers talk about this pain point in a certain way, why not talk about it in that way?
No, you're
Like,
100% right. And I think that's why companies like Gong have been able to take off so greatly, because that's essentially what Gong does, right? But when you think about it, right, this is the issue, right? Because the nature of sales, this is the issue that especially every startup and SMB has, right? Your best salesperson is the most valuable person at that company, right? But you don't know how they got that successful because you didn't train them, right? Like they just happen to be like competent enough and lucky enough and communicate well enough to get clients that actually were able to be solid revenue generating elements of your company, right? But then the issue basically is that the salesperson, they have no incentive to actually A, train new people, or B, even tell you, the company, how they acquired that client, or even tell you, more about because that's their client now. That's their business. That's how sales looks at things. This is my business, right? And I can move over to somewhere else. So that's where that's the major issue. Working with like lots of companies and their sales team, that's the major issue. Your best salesperson doesn't want to train anybody else and doesn't want to explain why they're successful, right? Gong,
yeah, interesting.
yeah, no, it's because Gong changed that because you're on their CRM, you're doing these calls, the information is being transcribed. It has to be like you talk to a lot of fractional CMOs or a lot of fractional marketing teams trying to get case studies from your sales team or like interviews with clients is like pulling teeth. You know what I mean? Because the salesperson has no, if you think about it, it's the funniest part. The salesperson has no interest in the performance of the company. They have interest in the performance of their portfolio. So if you're able to, and like if you're able to change that relationship, which I think is difficult because companies are at this weird place because it's like I need to get good salespeople in because that's how I'm gonna get more revenue. But the issue, so that sort of changes the goalposts of your hiring, because now you're not getting good people or competent people and hiring them. You're probably going to try to get somebody that already has a portfolio, and that just sort of changes this whole game where like the whole nature of depending on the industry you're in, where it becomes so corrosive and so toxic, right? But if there's a way now essentially to better train your sales team and to have them better aligned with your marketing team, where essentially your sales and marketing are basically one. You know what I mean? I find that's a better way to get more ROI for the company. But then the issue from a sales perspective, this is almost blasphemous for me to say, because that pushes salaries down for salespeople, right? At the end of the day, and that's what allows companies to do that, right? However, I just think that's where you see things going forward, right? Because Microsoft Salesforce can't keep hiring 10,000 people and firing them 12 months later. It makes no sense. Sales-led growth is dying, right? So like, I think what you're doing and what Big is doing is really the future of how things are going to be moving, like going forward. Yeah.
I mean, look, I think actually there needs to be. I think companies need to think very, very long and spend much more time on thinking, how do we nail distribution, right? How can we champion a couple of people in our company who really love what they do and make content about it, right? And again, it's funny, the minute you say to someone, there's a joke online about the minute you say to a salesperson, make content, they're like, I'm not doing any TikTok dancing or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And never, who said to you to do TikTok
TikTok
dancing?
dance, yeah, exactly.
Content can be blogs. It can be, there's some people going viral. When I say viral, by the way, it's like, that is also a double-edged sword, because virality doesn't lead always to sales. It depends it all depends on the audience you're targeting.
Yeah.
Now, you hear these great stories how there's, I think it's someone that gets around 500 views a video on Instagram, and they do tax returns for dietitians.
Yeah.
And they make $1 million a year. But their videos never go viral, but they get 500 views and they give unbelievable value, right? 500 views a video, maybe some of them hit 2,000-3,000,
Yeah.
but they're making $1 million a year, right?
Yeah.
So I think you've got to think. I think this is again that drives up the wall. A lot of companies will go, and this is something that at Bigged, we really try and what we try and recommend with organic is, and again, why it's important, why it works with paid is, if your audience, right, are like, for example, people that are dietitians who want more efficient tax returns, there are not going to be 100 million people wanting to watch videos on that.
Yeah.
There's not 100 million dietitians. You know what I mean, right? There's not billions of dietitians. I haven't actually done the maths there.
That's the thing about that person.
There are 100 million dietitians. We may have a problem. But you know what I mean, right? Like, so in a way, if your target market, let's say, let's look at the US. Let's say there's only, I don't know, let's say there's 1 million dietitians in the United States, right? To go viral in that niche, how many views do you need, really? Maybe if you get, I don't know, maybe if you, like 100,000 views in that niche, viral in my opinion. But some people, they look at that and go, 100,000 views is nothing. And it's like, no, but who are you targeting? Like, if it's 100,000 views and the niche is maybe 1 million, then you've gone viral. It's 10%. You know?
Exactly.
And I think people just need to look at it from a different lens. Like, if you're in the D2C space and you're kind of a B2C app or software, maybe slightly different, right? Again, the great power is it depends.
Exactly. But I think one thing you're talking about, and I think this is like really, really what it comes down to, right? Is that you have to provide value and find the people you provide value to. Things have really changed into, like, I think people are realizing now that less is actually more. Previously, we were in a world where more meant better, right? So it's like, more leads in the funnel, that's great. You know what I mean? More projected revenue, that's great, right? But like, that's not the case anymore, right? It's more so about getting the right people in the funnel, right? You don't just, like you were saying before, then you just have noise in your funnel. And you're going to churn through your team because you have all these useless people in there that actually have no need for your service, right? So I think what you said is 100%. In this new economy, the first thing is developing trust. Well, how do you develop trust? It's by actually creating value and making sure you're actually creating value for some people. And then past that, it's finding those people, figuring out how they talk, talking to them, and then getting the sale across the board, right?
I think for me, I think the great way to look at it is, okay, what content is my ICP looking at, right? okay, are they looking at long form videos, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe it would be the hypothesis in my head would be so maybe long form videos are a good content we should try, right? Okay, or I just think I don't know what the wording is here, but it's like micro. I think we're getting to a point now where micro influencers on LinkedIn is a really interesting space where if you've got someone that may only have 500 followers on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
but they're very dialed into the ICP they're targeting,
Yes.
they could give you so many more outside returns than just hiring a big influencer who does digital marketing, right? Like the game is so it's weird, it's so precise, but yet so like there's so like it's interesting. Like people say, what's trending? I always say, in what niche?
Yeah.
There are thousands of conversations happening every day in different niches, right? Some of them will blend together. So like the Jet 2 one, for example.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was it or EasyJet? It's one of the two. Is it Jet 2? It's Jet 2, isn't it?
Jet two. Jet two. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, for example, this one, I would say, has transcended a lot of niches, right?
Yes.
Some trends will only maybe affect 5%, or may only affect 5 different niches. And if the audience want to know how I describe a niche is a set of customers with a similar psychological profile that buy from that particular thing. If you like matcha drinks, right? There's a trend about matcha girlies. I mean, that's been going on for quite a while now. But you know what I mean? Like matcha, right? That is a niche of a certain demographic of people with like similar psychographic beliefs and whatever, and that stuff. And then I'm going on a rabbit hole down there. But you know what I'm trying to say, right?
No, I 100%.
Just.
I had a half-hour conversation with my girlfriend the other day about what is matcha. Like, what is?
Oh my goodness, that's a podcast in itself, by the way. That is,
like, what is it? All I do is green. Like, what are
the wider, broader contextual problems of matcha? And then that's like, like what are the morals of matcha? Yeah. I mean, I'd love to ask you this question. I know it's a podcast and you're asking me some fantastic questions, but I'm intrigued. Where do you see this going wrong? I mean, where are the morals in this kind of AI game? Because I think, there is a feeling of, and I think this is the tension that I have a lot inside of, we can get very good at understanding our ICPs, like that ideal customer, but is there a point where you actually feel like you know them too much, right? And actually that in a way creeps them out. Because it's the fact that you know so much about them, like you know what they're watching, you know what they're like, the fact that you are tracked so much online now, right? Do you think, I don't know, where's your head on that, on the morals of marketing, really? I mean, what do you think?
Depends on the demographics. I think the younger you get, the younger you get, the more comfortable they are with like their information being publicly available. And to be quite frank, I think at this point now, we're at the point where there's almost no demographic that's not aware that all their information is publicly available. Like I find it very interesting how comfortable we are with the fact that privacy doesn't exist. Because like literally 15 years ago, if you bring that up, that it's like that would be an impossible premise, right? So that's definitely changed. I'll definitely say that things have definitely switched. Because again, being back in sales, when Zoom Info and those guys first started coming up, first question was always, how'd you get my number? You know what I mean? Now it's just assumption, like I know you bought it somewhere, like I know you have the information out there already. I think that's the thing. Things have changed so much now. It's like I know my information is there already. I'm being reached out to by 60,000 people per day. If you're not hitting me where I'm already at, like a quarterback throwing the ball to where I'm at and I'm catching it, right? You're not paying attention, right? And I think that's the biggest thing a lot of people don't understand right now. So coming from a background,
meet them where they're at. Meet them where they're at. And if it's LinkedIn, you LinkedIn. And if it's but then this is the great thing, right? If it's resonating on YouTube, right? Yeah. What does that look like as a blog post, right? Like look, vidIQ has a really great tool. I recommend it to everyone. I think it's not free for all the features, but the one feature that I use is the outlier tool.
Okay.
Right? And what it will do is it will tell you the kind of this video is doing better than all the rest of its videos, right? And if you just type in what your keywords are in your industry, let's say, I don't know, you sell insurance, pet insurance.
Yeah.
Type in the word pet insurance, go onto YouTube, look at videos in the last month. So look in the last month and just see what videos are outlying on people's channels, right? And then see what the messaging is and see what they're talking about. And if you don't want to watch the video, pull the transcript back into ChatGPT. And then you'll know exactly what the themes and the sentiment are of the video. Take that one step further, look at the comments as well, right? Take that in and then see what they're saying about the video in one big LLM, and then you'll beat 90% of marketers because they're not doing it, right? I don't know, and again, 22-year-old, so take this with a pinch of salt, right? I've got a lot to learn.
No, I
But
think because you know, dude, like, because at the end of the day, I think what it comes down to is that you're okay. Young people have all the innovation when it comes down to it, right? And you have fresh eyes. And you're really, and this is what I'm trying to say. The nature things have changed so much. People don't understand. Even post pandemic, right? In 5 years, things have changed so much. The people that are in the seats responsible for moving the cudgels don't know what's happening anymore. So I think what you're saying is actually extremely valuable. The last minute of what you just said in terms of being able to consume content that your ICP is watching and translate that into messaging is so extremely valuable. I'm telling you right now, there's millions of dollars being spent in salary alone just trying to figure that out, and it's not working. Right, so I think just taking more of this approach, which people like honestly like don't value, right? It's like, yeah, like watch the YouTube videos, figure out what's happening in the space, right? And then act on it, right?
but don't act on information that's 5 years old because culture's moved. It's moved. It
Exactly.
moved. I mean, it's like different. I think this is how I boil it down, right? D2C, what B2B companies can learn from the D2C market right now and what they're doing and what we're finding with our clients is the game right now is fast creative testing, right? It's find the format that's resonating as quickly as possible and then squeezing the juice as much out of that thing until it burns out,
Yeah.
right? And I think what the B2B space should do, I think what they should borrow from that is A, faster ad iteration, B, more kind of relatable storytelling. I think people care about the story more than ever. What is
Yes.
the why? We know the
Yes.
how, we know the what, what's the why? And that's why I think founders doing videos as ads are really clever, right? And it doesn't have to be some super high polished 20 grand video and you've got a flipping drone shot. It could literally be, here's my phone walking down the street. Hey, look, I started this company because I'm really passionate about helping people do X, right? Okay, cool. And then you will do just, it's interesting. I think there is a trend right now of hi-fi. People are so burnt out and saturated from seeing really hi-fi, high-polished content. People are now focusing on more lo-fi, and what I mean by lo-fi content is very low-polished. Literally picking up your phone and talking, right? But not, because look at the market as well. Like founders would be terrified to do that because they'd be like, oh no, we need to have a proper mic and lighting. So there are some great ads that are literally pictures of people doing the weirdest things with like a simple headline at the top on
Yeah.
statics, and they
Yeah.
print, they print.
And I agree. And I think it comes down to this. So, like, I had this thesis before, right? So, content hasn't really changed. If you think about it, prior to, let's say, social media, we had television and cable. Everybody was consuming, like, and prior to that, we had radio, right? So, there's always been these medians of delivering content or delivering messaging that humanity has been prescribed to, right? And I think with this generation, what's happened is that cable cutting has happened. Nobody's watching cable television anymore outside of professional sports. It's been replaced by content,
YouTube.
right?
YouTube is the number one. I think it's now got the highest audience viewership. I think it's beating TV now. I think it's beating cable in certain.
There's that, but it's even LinkedIn, Spotify, everything. What I'm trying to say here now is that if you create content, it will be consumed by people who find it valuable, right? That's
And
just what
that's
it
the hard part. Valuable, not what you
exactly,
think's valuable, what they think's valuable, right?
exactly.
And that is the crux.
Exactly, and I think when you get into that the whole area of overproduction, that becomes a problem because now you're just, let's be honest, you're bullshitting me. Once it becomes too shiny and you're too well put together, and you know what I mean. Like, I'm not really getting any value here. I'm getting a commercial. If I wanted that ad, I just go onto your page and read it anyhow. Right? I'm not getting anything useful or valuable. I don't trust you, right? And that's the interesting thing. It's we move into this weird generation, and that's the one thing I really respect about like Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and whatnot. We're really moving back into this world of trust, which is something that we weren't there before. It's like, do I trust you? Who are you as a person? Do I trust you? Are you lying to me? Like, are you bullshitting? If you're a bullshitter, there's an ICP for you too as well. Don't get me wrong. It's people who love getting lied to, right? Find those people. But it's like, what it comes down to is like,
Like that.
are
But,
you resonating with me, right?
yeah, I mean, also as well, like it's interesting for me. I mean, I will try very different things, right? I'll try messages that are maybe a bit on the edge of salesy, and I'll try some messages that are not salesy,
Yeah, yeah,
right? But the thing that I strive for, and something that I will forever strive for in my carear, is constant iteration. Have whatever your hypothesis, whatever your thing is, make sure it's a fair test, right? So
yeah,
content is a great example of this. Do a content idea 4 to 6 times, different hooks, different spins, but the similar packaging. And if it doesn't work after the sixth, try something new. Try a different hypothesis. You know, like for example, a hypothesis I can make would be, I think me doing playbooks on LinkedIn gets value, gives unbelievable value to people that are interested in static ads and the psychology of why people buy, right? And from that, I'll have interesting conversations. And at the moment, for me, on LinkedIn, that has happened, right? Because the question, it wasn't how can I take from people, it was how can I give so much value and so much kind of, it seems like just, it seems stupid how much value I want to give people, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, they feel a feeling of, okay, wow, if he's giving this for free, I mean, what must he do if he does it for paid, right? You're signaling that, right? You know, I love doing playbooks. I think they're great. I also love looking at funnels because I know that's what people care about in the industry, right? So understand what your company, understand what they value, and then just show that to them. And then, yeah.
I am very confident that you'll be successful in your future. Not like that you already are right now, but it really comes down to what you just said there. It's providing value, right?
Provide.
You're doing an amazing job of doing that, man. You're doing an amazing job of doing that, and you're gonna kill
Thank you.
it. I think you're changing the game right now. So okay, before we end here, right? So okay, how do people get in touch with you? How do people get in
Yeah, yeah.
contact with you? Like, let's all the credentials. Like, what's the best way to get in contact with you? What's the best way to convert this over into sales?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I mean, first of all, I'm on LinkedIn. Just type me up, Luke Nelmes. You'll see me on there. I presume when we drop the podcast, we'll put my email there as well. But look, I mean, LinkedIn is the best way to contact me. You can go through our website. You know, I think what is clear and what I will make very to people is that we're being quite selective on who we choose to work with. And that's not because, you know, we're being arrogant. It's just we want to get this right. And we want to build the right foundations. And I think you and I would agree on this, is that if you get the wrong type of people in the business at the beginnings, it can just take the business off course, right? But I'm always happy to have conversations with people and try and give them some advice. And I think the thing that I'm willing to say to people is I'm happy to admit when I'm wrong, right? You know, I think that a lot of people struggle with that. And again, I think it's again coming down to trust. So yeah, if you want to get in contact with me, LinkedIn, email me. If you find my phone number, you probably will. You know what the world's like right now. You'll probably find it by asking ChatGPT. That'll be a universe where you can just type in anyone's name and you'll get their number, right? Yeah. If you if you find my phone number, well played, call me. And yeah, either the website or email. Yeah. But yeah, look, always happy to have a chat with people. I love, I love doing this. I think it's so
Perfect,
cool.
perfect.
But yeah,
That's great.
but thank you for having me, by the way. I mean, this has been just a hell of an opportunity, unbelievable opportunity. Because look, I could do this for hours. I love talking about where is the future of marketing going. And I
Yeah,
think D2C and B2B need to talk to each other more. And account marketing, I think there'd be so much learn from ABM and D2C and D2C to B2B and B2B to ABM. Like, there's so many links here, right? You know, it's an exciting time to be alive, and a
appreciate
scary one,
I
but
appreciate
exciting.
having you on, and we're gonna have more episodes to obviously just prime that because I think this is like very compelling stuff. But yeah, this is the beginning of a great partnership. I appreciate everything, man.
And honestly, like, amazing.